Fincher. It's for you guys, jokes. All right. We know what we're doing. Let's get into this. Yeah. And they'll be like, hey, I heard that. Like, hey, if you did this, it would really punch it up a bit. By the way, that's how pastors should be with each other. Hey, I heard your sermon. Hey, this would punch it up a bit. Or hey, this Greek word here, if you use that, like it would really boom. They wouldn't see that coming. And so like, there's a lot that translates, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you didn't just stay there.
You're the godfather of like 5 campuses.
Oh my.
So like you're killing it.
Well, I can't believe we have Justin Herman in the flesh on the campus.
Sitting one-on-one with Dr. Fincher. This is a dream come true. This is years in the making.
It may become a nightmare for me, but we'll make this happen.
You know what? Regret is a godly thing. It reminds us that there's a different path we maybe should have taken, but you took a path into this room, and I'm happy you're here.
And here we are.
Here we are.
We've known each other for a long time, 20 years.
It has been 20 years.
Yeah, and I was reading that story that was in the Columbia Tribune, which gave me some of the backstory that I had forgotten about. Did you remember anything from reading that story you had forgotten about?
Yeah, I haven't read that story. I forgot how, I think over time, because I remember supply preaching there. Over time, like the crowd gets bigger and bigger in your mind. I forgot, like there really was 6 people in that room. Like I came every week to preach to 6 people, and I loved those people and they loved me, and I was consistent to it. That was but I forgot, like that was an empty room, and that's how I cut my teeth preaching at the very beginning. That was a big deal.
Well, and I've got 10 things today that I'm going to ask Justin, and he doesn't know what the 10 are. And I tried to run them by you to see if they're okay.
Can't do it.
And no holds barred, no limits.
No limits.
That's sad and scary, but we'll make it work. One of them was about being a small church preacher. So I have no idea how long you preached at Keatsville Christian Church, but tell me how you got into being a small church preacher during your time here, and what that was like for you.
Okay, I'll tell you. Do you remember Worstell? I was a missions professor a long time ago. My very first time supply preaching was at a church called Elam Christian Church. I don't know if the church is still around. I assume it is. I came back from summer, and he said, hey, would you be willing to go do the supply preach? My very first time ever doing it. And I go there to do it 2 services, and they paid me like $700. I got all my buddies to come, and it was a big room full of people. I got done teaching, and I taught on the stewardship of influence. And this was my very first experience supply preaching. And then when I got done teaching, I kind of felt like something was weird in the front row. Like it was just kind of a weird vibe from the people. When I got done, one of the elders got up and was like, all right, everyone, thanks, Justin, for teaching. I'm sure you've all heard that, Pastor whoever was let go this week. Well, he's starting a new church down the road, and we're going to be joining him next week. So if you want more pastor, whatever his name is, and the church split. It was a church split and then I had to do a second service. And I went back to Worstell, and I was like, dude, did you know what was going down? He's like, I kind of heard something, but like I just wasn't, like, zero preparation. Just threw me right into the buzzsaw. I loved it. And then it was so ridiculous. And then I got the chance to do like a couple other scattered ones. One of the churches did communion every week, and they had a real wine. And I remember I was with some other students who were like, are we allowed to do this communion? Like, what's the story here? And we took the bottle, obviously. And but then I got set up with Keatsville Christian Church, and it was the best because there was no hiding if you didn't prepare. I think that's one of the biggest, like that's for me, that was the first things I learned. Like you walk in a room of seasoned Christians, because that's what they are. You just people all in their 50s and 60s. You walk in there unprepared, they're going to know it. They show it on their face. They're not hiding stuff. They wanted me to be around though. Like they loved it when I brought my friends. They wanted to make me food. They did it all the time. Like that was for me, it was the best way to learn, because when I did screw up, there was grace there because they've seen it all before, by the way. Okay. So a church that has no pastor, that they're relying on supply preachers, like they've seen it all before. So like they know you're in college, so you're not hiding the ball from them, that you are still learning and still preparing and still perfecting. So there's a lot of grace there. And they're welcoming. They pay, by the way, like I made money doing it. But they always made me food. Like it probably showed me the best side of church very early on. Wow. And that was needed for me.
Well, and that's great that you got the chance to do that here, as a lot of students have gotten to through the years. And how long did you do that? Was it months or a few weeks?
I was there. I think I was there for like a year.
Okay.
I did it for a while.
Wow,
it was incredible.
Cool. So that leads to my second question. How in the world did you make a transition from being from New York, Buffalo, New York, right?
Yeah.
Being from Buffalo, New York to mid-Missouri and not feel like you had just gone off the into the wilderness and be somewhere that you couldn't find anywhere else?
Well, I did feel that way. I remember driving into Moberly for the very first time, and I'm just like, what did I get into? But you know what the reality is? I have always stuck to this one truth, and I believe this is an undying truth in my life, that I am called by God to do full-time ministry, not kind of called by God, not sort of called, not if you run out of options and it turns out being a bad salesman, go do church stuff because anyone can do it. That called by God to do ministry. So there was always my guiding principle, my guiding star through all the ups and downs. And so when I met Clarence Hogan at Spring Hill Camp in Michigan, and I was telling him like, I feel like God's really called me to ministry. I'm 20 years old at the time, by the way. He said, well, you should check out my Bible college in Missouri. And I got accepted very quickly, which is all a hilarious story. The admissions process is a little different now than back then. But I got accepted, and I packed up everything. And I grew up poor, by the way. I don't know if you know how poor I grew up. Single mom.
Yeah.
Like, you knew enough about it. So no dad, single mom, totally poor. Like, I don't have money for college. Like, I'm not smart enough to get a scholarship. I'm not athletic enough to, so I had no options. If it wasn't for Central, I honestly don't know what I would have done for education.
Yeah.
I maybe would have racked up $100,000 in debt, maybe. I don't know. Like, I didn't graduate.
Yeah, the full tuition scholarship at that time.
At that time, it was
deal.
incredible. I wasn't going to say that, but like, that was a huge deal. Like, for me, the during that season of my life personally, that was a game-changing piece. Because without that, I don't know how I would have done it, honestly.
Yeah. So, I read, and I'm referring to an article. Justin was a cover. You had a cover article in the Columbia Tribune while you were a student here, and there's a whole story about that. But I reread that this morning, just refreshing my memory, and I had forgotten you had a season in your life in high school when you had fallen away from the Lord.
Yeah, I'd had a huge season.
And so what was it like coming back into, a ministry community, bringing that, that history, that association with people, knowing, kind of where the rest of the world, the non-Christian mindset was at, and navigating that tension between being a ministry student at a Christian college versus a recent person that was not walking with the Lord.
I am a sinner, and I make mistakes. I still make mistakes. I used to make really large mistakes. And so just a little backstory on that. So my youth pastor slept with some of the girls in the youth ministry. And when that came out, I had this sense from Satan that, well, if this guy couldn't do it, there's no way you could do it. And that was my last day going to church. I was 16 years old. And I didn't go back to church again. And my mom prayed for me every week. She went to church all the time. I was drinking and screwing around. I'm like, 16, 17 in Buffalo. Almost no rules in Buffalo if you know like how to maneuver things. So I'm just a mess. And it wasn't until I was 19, I was dating a girl, and she was a Christian. She was very foolish to date me. And we made a deal that if she went out to the bars with me, that I would, on Saturday night, I would go to church, or on Friday night, I would go to church with her on Sunday. She agreed to this deal. I ended up getting, I drank a lot, and I ended up fooling around with, this isn't a kid's podcast, this is an adult podcast. I ended up sleeping with this girl that, some random girl that I worked with, and she found out about it. She drove to my house and told my mom about it. So I'm driving home from work. This is on Saturday now, thinking, oh, my girlfriend's here. I walk into a buzzsaw of confrontation because my mom's pissed, by the way, because this is shameful for her only son to be this guy that cheats on his girlfriend, and for her to find out about it. And it was humiliating. And Sunday happened, And then Monday, I left for a road trip with my buddy Kevin to visit his girlfriend who lives in Iowa. They went to Moody Bible Institute. So all of that crazy, broken, just shattering of life happens. And then I hop in a car and go on a road trip. And that road trip was the defining change of my life. I was on a boat in Minnesota, and I had this clear sense that my life is just going in the wrong direction. And I knew enough about God to know, and this is what was playing in my mind, what my life was like with God, the path I was on, and what my life could be like if I turned my life back over to God and said, Jesus, you take control. So in that moment in the boat, I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it to Jesus. And I literally rolled over to my buddy. I was like, hey, I think I just gave my life back to Jesus. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, totally unexpected, which is the way God works sometimes. Okay, it's not always a conference or a mega church or the speaker or some band. Like sometimes it's just you and your Savior one-on-one, and you just hash stuff out. So then that's all the backstory. So coming into Central, I didn't come in with I wasn't the all-star youth ministry kid. I didn't have two parents that loved the Lord, and one was a deacon, and everyone wore a suit to church. I felt I came from a very gritty, very real, very full of pain, full of suffering, full of mistakes.
Yeah.
But Jesus can fix that. And so I'm called to ministry. I'm going to learn here how to formulate all of it so that I can go out and tell other people that Jesus is the way.
Well, and you and I don't have a lot in common in that realm. We have come from very different backgrounds and have had very different paths, but we have one thing in common. Most people don't realize we're both adopted.
Yep, they are both adopted.
And we talked about that when you were a student here. I was in the process of discovering my biological parents. Now, to my memory, you never got to meet your biological parents or even know who they were. Is that correct? Or did you ever determine your biological parents?
I'm about to blow your mind.
Okay.
Because I know everything.
Oh, you do?
I know everything. It took, after my mom passed away, I decided I was going to start looking into it.
Okay.
I did Ancestry, and I got connected with a girl named Hannah who lives in New Jersey. Hannah is my niece. Mm. And we had too much DNA to you can't explain it away. It's like we're related somehow. So long story short, I'm going to take a multi-year story. Me and her chatted on Ancestry for about 2 years before she brought it up to her dad. And the reason she waited is because there are other kids out there. This guy, my birth father, my biological father, kind of set up franchises in different places, in different countries, okay? And so she held off. I learned that my mother's name is Alice. She's a wonderful lady. And I gave that piece of information to Hannah, who eventually did share it with her father. And it's like, I've been talking to this guy. I think he's related to us. And dad's like, what's the story? He's like, well, here's the information he shared with me. And he said his birth mother's name is Alice. Well, that sold it for him because he knew Alice. His father worked with Alice at their factory that they worked at for 30 years before it closed. So there's no way to make that up. He now knows it's legit. I hop on the phone with him. He answers every question I have. Mm-hmm. Both my birth parents are passed away. My birth father was from Cuba. He escaped Cuba, after the Bay of Pigs, after the revolution failed. He escaped to America, built a whole new life in America, had a kid with one girl, had another kid with another girl, then got with this other gal, had 3 boys, and then went to Puerto Rico, had another kid there, and then after the factory closed, rekindled with Alice, basically his assistant. And I was born 9 months later. Yeah. And they never knew any of that, like a total shock. So I flew to New York and I met them.
Yeah. And that's very similar to what I got to do. Yeah. Remember, I think we shared that over KFC one day. Yeah. We had KFC together and I told you what was going on in my own adoption story. And at that point, you had not found your biological parents or even knew who they were. No. But the point that I wanted to make was, what was it like growing up adopted, not knowing that, which was true for me. I had a wonderful mother and father who, got me from a situation where there was no one else that was going to take care of me. And how do you think God in those years was teaching you in such a way that he would eventually draw you back to himself?
My mom was great. My adopted mom was great. My adopted father was a total loser. And most of my family, they're all losers. And when I say loser, that's defined by they have no drive. They have no loyalty to anything bigger than themselves. It's always the immediate need, what feels good, what we can buy right now, or let's get a flat screen, no thinking about the future. Like there's just no, the bare minimum, kind of vanilla, just kind of getting by. Okay, so that's what I mean. And so I was never like that. So growing up adopted, I always thought, if I could meet anyone, I want to meet my biological father. Like, where do I get this part of me from? Like, when I look at my family, I'm just like, I don't think I belong with these people. Like, where do I get that from? That was the thing that always went through my mind my entire life. And the one time I brought it up to my mom, by the way, like you could tell by the look on her face, she did not like the idea of me pursuing that, which is why I never pursued it until after she died. And the thing that drew me to Jesus in the first place, the very first church I ever went to was a church called Wheatfield Christian Missionary Alliance Church. My Sunday school teacher, this was when I was like 7 years old, by the way, like 8 years old. My Sunday school teacher, Nancy Burns, who is still alive, sends me Christmas cards. I got to see her again a couple of years ago when I took my kids to Buffalo for a Bills game unexpectedly, which is awesome. And she was presenting the gospel in Sunday school. And she was talking about Jesus as the Heavenly Father. That resonated with me. So my relationship with Jesus early through those years was always connected with him through the lens of the Heavenly Father, because I didn't have a father. And I know people who don't grow up with a dad either are very drawn to Jesus as the Heavenly Father, or they're repelled by Jesus as the Heavenly Father because of the brokenness with their dad, or because the lack of a dad and the desire for it. I was drawn to it because of the lack of a dad and the desire for it. And so it was always a close relationship. Just like any father-son relationship, wasn't always an obedient relationship, okay? Like I wasn't always this obedient son following after the father. I made a lot of mistakes, of course, and I still do. But what he taught me all of those years is that, yes, just like a loving father, like the kind of father I want to be to my kids, the kind of father you are to Adam and I don't know any of your kids' names other than Adam, but the way you are.
Anna and Alex.
Okay, Alex, not Adam. So
no, Adam, Anna, and Alex.
Okay, you're right. The three kids. So the way you are to them, the way I am to my four kids, is the way the Heavenly Father is to me. That's what he's taught me. Because through all the times of mistakes and screwing up, like he's never rejected me. He's never sent me a pink slip that I'm not a Christian anymore, or that I can't go to heaven one day. Like, there's always forgiveness. There's always reconciliation. That's what he's taught me.
One of the things that I often get asked about being adopted and finding my parents and what it was like to not know them and then to know them. I say that, one of the things that my mom did really well was not hide that part from my life.
Yeah.
She said she would help anything she could do to find my biological parents. She ended up meeting my biological dad eventually. Wow. She knows who my biological mom is, but they never met in person. So yeah, it was a really meaningful way to discover how God was working in my life in ways that I didn't even know, to get, genetics from this person and this person, but also then influence and environment from these other two people. And in some ways I like to say, being adopted has its own challenges. If you think dealing with two parents is tough, wait till you get four, and then people in blended families understand that too. But, it was a great thing. I think we bonded over that in some way. We were going through that together, thinking about what it meant to be adopted. Yeah. I want to come back to Missouri. So you leave New York, you come to Moberly, Missouri, and let's just say your time here was it was a challenge to lots of people, right? I mean, you created Satmo, and you talked about that yesterday.
Yep.
We're Sons of Thunder, Missouri, I think is what it's
Moberly
for,
Originals.
Right? Tell me, there was a female version of that too. Did you inspire that, or did you make that happen with somebody else? Tell me about the female side, because we always hear about Satmo, but we don't always hear about the female version.
Yeah, I mean, Dotmo, that was kind of short-lived. That was semi-short-lived. Honestly, there's more marriages that came out of that than like anything else. Like I'm not joking. Like that, Joel Amundsen married the gal. Mark was here. He married a gal. They're all in Dotmo. And, here's the blunt truth of it. If you have charisma and energy, you will attract people. And it was just a group of dudes that were all a little older. We all live in foundations. So we're all in our 20s. There's charisma and energy and camaraderie. And, guess what? Like, this is a timeless truth. Girls want to be around that. Okay. It's like that's not an indictment on them. That's an affirmation of them. Godly women want to be around godly men who are, vanilla dude, just kind of floating through life. No convictions, no opinions, no like morale. Like, girls want, this is a timeless truth. It's true in middle school. It's true in high school. It's true in college today. If you're a guy and you have some energy, you have some excitement, like you're bold in your thinking, you're bold in your language and your actions. Now, obviously you can do that in ungodly ways. You can do it in godly ways. But it's a universal truth because in ungodly situations, those girls are still attracted to those guys. And the same in godly situations. So it was, my time at Central was the best. And so Satmo added to that. I mean, at its core, I still talk to those guys. Okay, so like I still talk. I'm sure a lot of alumni still talk to each other, but like there's an identity. There's a family in that that we've grown through the years. I mean, now everyone has kids, and like we're all older. Like, it's wild.
So, your time at Central, as I said, was a challenge, and
Yes.
I think I can say this because you said nothing is off limits.
Nothing.
There was a time you got kicked out of school.
2 times.
Yeah, okay, 2 times. You told this story in a sermon earlier, so it's public.
Yeah, it is totally public.
Talk about what it was like to get kicked out of school. If you want to share why you were kicked out,
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I'm not going to correct the record because I can't share your FERPA.
No, that's fine.
But tell me why you got kicked out and what you learned from being kicked out.
The first time I got kicked out is because I went to a wedding and I was drinking at the wedding, and then I ended up taking a girl back to my hotel room and messing around with her. That was the first time I was kicked out. The second time I was kicked out is because I took a...
Which, by the way, there are several clear violations of the student.
There's a couple of violations there.
And you knew that.
Oh, I 100% knew that. I 100%.
Okay.
And dude, there's so much ego in this. There's so much pride. There's so much arrogance in me at that time in my life. No humility. I was 23, right? So I'm thinking, I'm 23, right? I'm older. I know stuff. Like, these rules, like, those are for the 18-year-olds who can't handle freedom. Like, surely that's not for me. Come on. Like, total ego, total self, no humility. And these are the things that need to be broken in me, by the way. And then I came back. I honestly think, grace of God, the grace of Regina Green, who's with the Lord, and without her, like she was great. You were great. So many people were great. She uniquely was great. The second time, I went and met up with a girl who went to a different college, spent a couple nights with her, and that was a huge problem, obviously, and was drinking then too, by the way. Again, no humility, doing the same thing again. Okay, so sinning again, which is just so catastrophically insane. It's like, why would you have this Bible school kid here sinning again? Well, because first of all, everyone sins again. Okay? People sin and they sin again. So automatically, I feel like, well, I'm just one of the many people that Jesus is here to save because I'm a sinner. I'm a screw up. I look back at that with no regrets at all. If I could do it differently, I probably would tell myself to do it all exactly the same. Because man, oh man, I look back, my degree is valuable in all of the books I have and all the lessons I got and all the notes, which I still have a lot of those. The education was good for the degree that I have. My life in ministry, the practical life of my ministry, is better because I actually experienced life and ministry in college in a safe setting. You don't always get that opportunity. In real life, you don't always get that opportunity. In a godly college setting, I got that opportunity.
Yeah, so, my mission in life is not to keep you on the rails, but for the next few minutes it is.
Please.
Let me try to word that in another way and see if I'm hearing it right. It was better for you in your mind that you made those mistakes while you were here in college and learned from them than if you would have gotten into a ministry and made those same mistakes.
Oh, dude, 100%. Oh my gosh, you said that perfectly.
And what you're saying
said that perfectly.
And what you're saying is even repeating it drove the lesson home further to prevent you from doing it when it counted. I mean, it always counts, but there's so much more on the line when you're in a position of leadership at a church and there's, other staff members and there's the public and the press. And I mean, we're seeing that all around us right now
100%.
in big churches and small churches
Yes.
alike, that people that didn't learn that lesson 25 years earlier are making that mistake at age 45 or 50 or 55.
Yes. I was able to learn at a young age not only what turning over parts of yourself to the Lord really meant. Now, I mean, I'm telling you, Regina Green was a godsend through this whole time. She met with me. Most people don't know this. Like, she met with me every single week to counsel me.
And that was a big sacrifice for her, I'm sure.
It was a sacrifice for her. But you know what? And again, it's like you're at an institution that doesn't just believe in the people in front of us, like even the ones that are the lost sheep. Like, we have professors that are going out there to get them and kind of bring them back in. It was a sacrifice of her own time because she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I don't know why the school accepted me back the second time. Like, I don't know if she put her own credibility on the line. Like, I don't know what exactly went down that you guys are sitting there in a room. Like, really, I'm 41 now. I'm thinking, I was 24 at the time. Why would all of these grown professional adults say, yeah, let's give this guy a third chance? Like I don't know why, but I'm so thankful they did.
Well, and while you were out, you attended Moberly Area Community College.
Dude, that was so crazy.
Now, at some point, you've told a story about sleeping in a pink bedroom, and I do want to hear a little bit about that. Like, when you were no longer you gave up Sotmo and all the glories of Foundation First Hall to sleep in somebody's pink bedroom. But you did something else interesting while you were at MACC. You became the student body president of the local community college. Let's hear about it.
Oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. We'll get back to the pink room. The pink room was one of the significant moments in my life. We'll get back to the pink room. When I was at Moberly Area Community College, because I had to do something. So I was kicked out, and it wasn't a, hey, you're kicked out for the rest of the semester. It's, hey, you're kicked out for the rest of the semester and next semester, and then you can reapply. So I had some decisions to make. Literally, what was I going to do?
Yeah, where were you going to sleep?
Where was I going to sleep? There's part of me that thought my whole thing was going up in smoke, and we'll get to that, to the pink room. But I eventually decided to stay, join Moberly Area Community College. I don't know what it's like now. Back then, it was pretty easy, okay? I don't know if it's more rigorous now, but I'm coming from a Reese Acts class. I'm coming from Stevens, Romans class, Suma's classes, Donaldson's class, where you're reading 40 pages a night, to, hey, welcome to Psychology 101. The exam's open notebook. Here's the notes. Let's watch this movie, Good Will Hunting. It's like, what are you what is going on here? And so I was bored out of my mind, obviously. And I saw this poster for student government, and I said, well, I'm a student. I should run for student government. And I built a whole campaign about free childcare, reassessing the school cafeteria food, things that, by the way, I had no power to influence at all. But I campaigned on it hard, and I ended up winning. And I was the student government president for MACC, and I went to all the MACC campuses and spoke. This is so dumb, but it's a metric of, it's like one of those invisible metrics of future potential. It's like, okay, you take a guy, this is the situation he's in. Well, what's he doing with his time? Is he just saying, okay, well, I guess it's all over, it gets into the bottle, gets into more women, whatever? Is it, he says, okay, well, I'm just going to stay at home, do nothing. The only way to be safe is to be locked in a room away from everyone. That's the only way I won't make mistakes. It's like, no, I'll just run for the president of this school. I'm going to fill my time with stuff that I enjoy, that I find interesting, and I'm just going to move at things. I'm still me. And that's, to me, was the biggest. It was a big takeaway during that time, because who I am, I'm still that person, and I make mistakes, and Jesus forgives, and there's restoration. But what makes me is me, and I got to put that on display at MACC. That was so ridiculous.
All right, pink bedroom, 30 seconds. No, 60.
I was planning on killing myself in that room. I I get kicked out. I load up my car. And there's a couple that lived there. They said I could stay there. And night 1, night 2, I don't leave the room. And night 3, I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? They're never going to accept me back. Should I go join the military? Do I go back to Buffalo? What's waiting for me in Buffalo? Nothing. I have half a degree finished. I can't transfer anywhere because I don't have the money to pay it for anything. Maybe this is the end. And I remember thinking, dude, who's going to miss me? My mom? She'll be fine. She's old. It'll be whatever. And then my phone rings, and it's Mark Howard saying, "Hey, dude, how you doing? Let's get some food. Satmo." And I say, "There's more left in me. Yeah, there's more fight left in me." And I cast those thoughts out of my mind. I hop in my car and I go meet up with Mark and some of the guys, and it was great. And I've never thought about it again. But like, there was a moment where I thought, man, I feel like I've run out of options. I have no more options. And it was my brothers that reminded me that I have options. That I have a lot left in the tank.
And isn't it great that just about the time the enemy is trying to push you, over the edge, he's gotten you close to the edge. He wants to push you over the edge. You've got whatever relationships you invested in the past months, years, that come back and grab you and say, "Hey, get back over here. Well, we still care about you. We still want you to be here." And I mean, whether that's the church in general or the ministry in specific, or even a school as an illustration of that, Satan can't push as much as he can pull, and he can draw, but we can do both. We can push people away, but we can also pull them back.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw the Lord that night through the hands of somebody's phone dialing you. That's amazing.
It was significant. It changed everything.
Now, we got to talk about your tattoos, okay?
Yeah.
And the premise of the article was actually you were a tattooed preacher who was keeping the identity of your tattoos from the church. Because you were afraid that if they knew you had tattoos, they'd
totally
fire you.
True. I mean, it's
and
totally
so you
true.
showed up completely covered, didn't tell anybody your secret, and it seemed like the article was really about, Christians and tattoos are not mutually exclusive, but at this church they might be, and you were afraid. So tell me how you finally were able to avoid the fear that someone might reject you for your tattoos, even in the ministry.
Yeah, I mean tattoos were such a tough thing at that time. I mean, this is 20 years later, right? But at the time, it was all very, very difficult.
But your tattoos are even Christian.
Oh yeah,
most of them are Christian symbolism.
Oh yeah, it is. It's Jesus. It's the Bible. It's the dove, and it's all these things. The cross. When I figured out my very first tattoo, my mom was pissed. Oh my gosh, she was so pissed. And she made one rule, and I've honored that rule. Don't get any tattoos that you can't put on a long sleeve shirt and cover. Nothing below the wrists, nothing on the neck, and I've honored that. And
you with the face tattoo would have a hard time doing junior high ministry.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? It'd be so ridiculous. I did not want. I didn't know how to deal with. The losing of opportunity because of the tattoos. So I did keep them covered. I didn't want to lose the opportunity because I was very grateful. It wasn't until I sat down with the chairman of the board. This church of 6 people, they have a board, chairman of the board, and I let her in on the secret. And she affirmed me. She's grateful that I told her. Also, keep wearing long sleeve shirts. You're totally good. It's not we don't need to tell anyone. I think if I remember correctly, that's kind of how it went down. But I remember one time I went to a church and I sat down in the back row. A friend of mine invited me to one of their local churches, whatever. And I sat down in the back row waiting for them to come in because they were parking. And a woman looked back and saw me and then did a double take and then grabbed her purse and pulled it in. And I'm thinking, what do you think I'm going to do? But even if you think all guys with tattoos are, bad hombres, then I get it. It was definitely tough. California was different. California was different, but even there, I dealt with issues all the time. My senior pastor, Kenton Beshore, who has moved on, he's pastor emeritus now at Mariners. We have a new senior pastor. But at the time, they would get emails from parents. Every time I went on about main stage, so you talk main stage, you're in front of, over the course of a weekend, 15,000 people, they'd always get emails. This is the guy that you have influencing your students. This is the guy, full sleeves of tattoos. He always defended me, and he always set me up with language that when parents asked me, how to respond, in a godly, humble, kind way. But he always had my back, and obviously Eric, the senior pastor now, has my back, and I'm on video all the time, short sleeve shirts, doing Good Friday, doing weekend services, Easter, Christmas, the whole thing. And I'm sure they get emails too. They don't bother me with those, but they always defend me. They always support me. I feel I know there's guys out there doing ministry who have tattoos from before they were a Christian, and they're either getting them covered up, or like they're really keeping them hidden because it's a naked girl, or it's Satan, or it's just stuff from a sinful world. My heart breaks for those guys because that's a really tough situation.
Yeah.
But I worked at a tattoo shop. I worked at Iron Tiger Tattoo in Columbia, Missouri, for like 3 weeks, and then I had to quit because they were doing cocaine, and I couldn't be around that. But that was a whole ordeal. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
Thank you for quitting, by the way.
Well, I had to get, oh my gosh. Maybe it was Rex Road who was, because I had to get it approved to be out past curfew. And my shift was like 7 to 1 a.m. And then I'm driving back to school. And so I had to get special permission, which I got. And then, 3 weeks in, I'm doing the job. I'm loving it. Like, things are working out. But then, a couple of guys start doing cocaine in the back room, and they offer it to me. And that was like one of my mom's big things. Like, don't do drugs. Like, don't, have sex before you're married. I didn't do that well. And don't drink, which is also one I failed at. But I always stuck with the drugs one. I never did drugs. And I saw that. I was like, I just can't be in this environment. I can't do this. And it had to have been Rex Road. I came back to him and I said, hey, I want I ended up quitting that job. So I'm not going to need to start after curfew. And he's like, well, why did you quit? I'm like, oh, well, they started doing, I said it nonchalantly. Like, oh, they started doing cocaine. I just couldn't be around that. And the look on his face, like just this mortified look, like that one of his Bible school students would be like anywhere near people doing cocaine. Like, it was hilarious to me. But I mean, that's the real world. I mean, it's like, I always felt, and I didn't always do it perfectly, obviously, but like I always had a good handle on following Jesus and the ways of the Lord and making those ways good. And that we also live in a real world full of real sinners who are making real mistakes on a regular basis. Like, that's it. Having a handle on both of those has been a gigantic influence in my overall ministry philosophy and thinking. Like, the general person is thinking about the parking lot more than they're thinking about like other, stuff that church people typically think about.
And you've got junior high kids you're ministering to who may have parents that are in that exact same situation or background. And so it's not just ministering to those people, but ministering to the people around them and trying to grasp the mindset that those young people are bringing into the room so that you can speak to them in a way that's loving and helpful, not just a way that...
See, you're cueing into something that's really important. And that's why the school is so important. That's why ministry training is so important. Because you take this conglomerate of people from all these different backgrounds, you put them in a setting where they're really able to experience all these different things. Okay, supply preaching, like, doing different types of ministries, serving different types of people. I remember going down and doing homeless ministry for the very first time. That happened here at Central.
Yeah.
And I remember doing it the second and third, fourth, like many times. And I remember being with people who it was their first time doing it. Like, you're experiencing ministry for the first time. You're seeing life through other people's eyes for the first time. Like, that all can happen within the safety of an academic institution. Like, that is the preparation stuff.
And now in California, I mean, homelessness is everywhere. So you got the right introduction to it to where you're not just mouth open when you get there going, what do I do now?
I don't live in California anymore. I live in Arizona.
Right, but your ministry was in California.
Yeah, ministry was in California forever. I was there for 10 years.
And there's homeless people in Phoenix, too.
Yeah, there's homeless people in Phoenix. We keep them all in Mesa, though. Mesa and Chandler. We do not allow them. No, I'm joking. We bust them out of Goodyear to those areas. I'm just kidding, but I wish that was true. In California, listen, just take homelessness just for the example, by the way. My kids were old enough. They saw homeless people in California. There was everywhere. And you have the combination of all the pieces, right? All the pieces of ministry. They're standing there looking for money. You want to be generous to them because, well, God, we're called to generosity. You also don't want them buying drugs. But wait a second, we're not their accountants. We're just called to be obedient and be generous. And, a homeless, it's like if you've never been around a homeless person, you might think all of them are just, all just mental health issues. You know what? Some people are homeless because they don't have any options. Like, if I chose not to, if I didn't have anywhere to stay, I would have been staying in my car when I stayed at that family's house, by the way. Like, if someone didn't say, come stay with us, I would have stayed in my car until I figured out what to do. So, like, I would have been homeless.
Yeah.
And it would have been by my own choices, by the way. So people, by their own choices, by their own mistakes, by their own bad bounces of things, will find themselves homeless. There's a humanity in that. They're made in the image of God. They're made with a purpose. we as ministry people, we're trying to help them. We're trying to draw that out in them so they see that, and hopefully that be what ignites like a rebirth of their life and to action, and to not just being on the street, not just succumbing to, well, I'm just on the street now, I guess I'll just start doing drugs and doing what, like, this is who I am. It's not their identity. Their identity is in Christ, but they will not see that. And that's why those in ministry, those who know Jesus, are helping draw that out in them so they can see it themselves. But I learned that at Central.
Yeah, and I mean, the person who might be leading the homeless ministry 3 years from now could be in homelessness right now.
100%.
I mean, if they are properly helped and convicted and assisted along the way and things like that. Hey, we've only got through 8 of my 10 questions. Let's
keep going.
Let's get 2 more.
All right.
You lost a position during COVID. I was really proud of that position that you took. You don't have to talk about the specifics of it. And I was really concerned when you lost that position. Tell me how you coped with that. To my knowledge, it had nothing to do with bad choice or behavior on your part. It was just a COVID casualty, as many ministry jobs were. Tell me how that hit you and how you recovered from that.
So I was working in a nonprofit. I was pumped about this.
Yeah.
I really love that job, actually, and I had big vision for it. But it was an executive director of a nonprofit called R12. They were wonderful. It was a Christian service organization. Everyone thought COVID was going to end, sometime soon, right? How long could this go for? So I was hired. It was like 8 months of doing. You can't do a service organization. You can't be around people. So it was 8 months of these people paying me kind of coming up with ideas and ideating and like just getting ready for like when the time comes. And like all nonprofits, if funding dries up, I mean, you're paid by the money you raise. So if we're not raising money, and it's very tough to raise money for a Christian service organization that isn't serving. So we don't have a year of stats to show them of how we've grown year over year. And they had to call me and let me go. And they didn't want to, but there's no money for it. And these board members aren't, to their credit, like I get it, like they're not signing on to be a board member to write $50,000, $100,000 checks to support this guy's salary. So they had to make a decision for the organization, which is still going, by the way. Like they've retooled things and they're up and moving now. But that was really tough. I didn't know. And we just had 2 kids born, and they gave me a generous severance. More generous than some place would have given me, by the way. But I'm still sitting there with a pile of money and like, okay, well, what am I going to do for a job? Like I had no idea. That was really, really hard. That was really hard. And that was my first. That was in ministry, back in ministry. And so I thought that I felt like I was back at square one now with 4 kids. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. That was a tough time. Luckily, God's really good.
Yeah. Well, and just on a light note, most people don't know, although if they've heard you preach, they could guess. You even tried your hand at stand-up during that season.
Dude, yeah, totally.
Tell me about your stand-up career. How did it start? How did it end?
I'll tell you how it started. Because I said God's good because he brought an opportunity my way to work in the field of restoration and construction, which, by the way, didn't take any of those classes at Central. So I had no idea what I'm doing. I think the true position of humility is realizing that most people really don't know what they're doing, and they're just kind of working their way through life. I didn't know what I was doing, but yet I'm running these $1 million jobs, and I was working in construction. I was a project director. I tucked my shirt in. I had a logo on my shirt, a company car, the whole thing. Well, we were trying to figure out ideas of how to, do more stuff with our clients, right? Because this is a client thing, right? So we're going out to happy hours and the whole thing. I have a really funny happy hour story if you want to hear it. With the, CCV, Christ Church of the Valley, yeah. Right? It's a Christ Church of the Valley story. It's a hilarious story. And we were trying to come up with ideas, and I knew a comedy club that had stand up, and I was like, well, what if we did like a stand up comedy thing, and like some of us performed, and we invited them all. We cover the drink costs, whatever. And they were like, well, who's going to do it? And I'm like there with like this 39-year-old lady, or maybe older, this other gal who's like 22, this other dude who's like 60. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. So like I signed up to do it, and I fell in love with it. I worked on like 5-minute set. I thought it was pretty funny. And then I did it a few more times, and it actually is great. There's nothing you can hide behind when you're doing stand-up, because you're going out there, it's you, a microphone, and either you're funny or you're not. And the crowd's going to let you know. And it's just like ministry, it's just like church stuff. If you're standing out there giving a sermon, you're looking at the people, either they're dozing off or people are pulling out their phones. Like either they're in or they're not in, and you can tell immediately. There's no hiding, and so like it's one of those things that it really does translate. Like you got to have a little bit of courage. You have the fear of failure. You have to be okay with that. You're gonna fail. And actually, failing makes you better. That's why supply preaching is so good. That's why you got to record them if you're supply preaching, so you can go back and listen to it. So I just taught here this morning. I listened to the talk while I was having coffee this morning. Because I'm listening to him like, oh, I probably could have done that a little bit better. Like I'm a self-assessor, and like that is the culture of stand-up comedy. Like all these guys, they all want to get better. They all want to, help people polish. Like they'll hear your bit and they'll be like, hey, I heard that. Like, hey, if you did this, it would really punch it up a bit. By the way, that's how pastors should be with each other. Hey, I heard your sermon. Hey, this would punch it up a bit. Or hey, this Greek word here. If you use that, like it would really boom. They wouldn't see that coming. And so like there's a lot that translates, and it was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you didn't just stay there. You got back into really an intriguing ministry now, and you can check out Justin on Mariners Church as one of their online ministers. Yeah. You're the head of their online.
No, I'm the online pastor.
You're the only
guy.
The only dude. Online minister.
Yeah, and it's a blessing.
And you're doing a workshop on this tomorrow at Solid. So that'll be recorded. Eventually, we'll share his workshop, and you can hear all about what online ministry is like.
So important.
I'm thankful for all the students that find their way to Central. I'm proud of our graduates. When I hear about their ministries, I'm inspired by the things they do. Justin, you're in that very small group of people that go far beyond what we could have imagined, even in the best possible scenarios. Right? Most people we pretty well have a good idea of what they're capable of, and many of them live up to it, and if you surpass it, you've certainly done that, and it's always a joy anytime we get to have you back. I laugh. I think about the good old days. I see pictures of me and you together when I had no gray hair, and I'm like, what I would give to take 15 years ago, visit myself and talk about all the things that have happened since then, but that's the way God works. He just keeps us moving forward. We're along for the ride, and we're helping drive every bit we can and leaving the rest up to Him. You've done a great job at that. So thanks for being part of this today, this Central Sit Down, and thanks for watching, those of you that were able to. And you may have to rewind and hear some of the stories again. There's many more where those came from, but you got through 10 of my favorite ones, and we're glad we could share them with you. Good seeing you.
You're the best. You're the best.